My goodness, it's been a while since the last one. Exam season really devoured any and all free time, so this video had to be postponed a bit. But now that I've managed to carve out a spare moment, let's have a look at crows. Or maybe I should say corvids, because I'm pretty sure some of these are magpies. As per usual, some helpful shapes. I will draw your attention to the Pringle in particular. Crows like to make our lives harder, and this includes twisting their wings into all sorts of strange shapes. Getting used to bending a flat plane into this squishy Pringle shape is a great way to prepare for the many struggles you will face with their feathers. A smaller point of interest is the proportion of the beak to the skull. This is where we will have fun stylizing later, and is often the source of any not quite a crow feelings in your drawings. With that covered, here's a tiny reminder about the wings from the owl video. The main difference to keep in mind for crows is their feathers. Owls have nice, smooth, fluffy wings. Crows, on the other hand, have a much more ragged and almost finger-like appearance. Now onto the main speed paint. I explored quite a few poses this time around, as the references around corvids are really varied and each have their own sort of charm. Crows have such a specific attitude to the way they move and pose, a bit like geese, so it's really fun to experiment with a wide variety of sketches. I put a lot of focus on line of action, specifically in the wings and necks of these sketches. I do think I lost some of that once I went into cleaner line art, but not so much that I had to redo any of them. Sometimes that's just how line art goes. Usually if I'm getting that feeling, I skip line art altogether and use my sketch, but in this case it didn't bother me so much. Also, the line art is where I felt I was really learning how to draw crows. So even if this is a bit stiffer, I think my fundamental understanding reached a new level. Moving on to the colour stage, and a small apology to the people who wanted me to go into more detail in this step. I want to. I really do. And I will. Just not for this one. You'll see that I started and stopped and restarted and stopped, etc. quite a few times. The reason for this is I'm not used to rendering crows, especially not in this style, and I was learning as I went. A sort of trial and error method, which is great for me and very fun, but significantly less helpful to you guys. At one point, I went into full autopilot and barely remember what I was doing, much less the reasoning behind it. To sum up what I do remember doing on purpose, I was mainly focused on pulling some colour into the famously monochromatic bird. Teals and purples specifically. I blocked out big shadows first with a nice soft-edged brush, focusing on grouping feather clumps rather than individual forms. Then I went under that with big splotches of teal in areas that would typically be highlighted by the light source, and finished it up with a final layer of a slightly purpley pink highlight. That's the best explanation I can offer from a brain that was, at the time, being melted by a math lecture. I'm not sure how I feel about this rendering style, to be honest. It's definitely pretty, but if I was doing painting for one of my illustrations, I don't think I'd go with such a complex style. It doesn't matter though, because I had a lot of fun doing it, and that was my main reason for making these videos. Animals can be daunting to a lot of people, and I just want to show you guys that sometimes it's best to just throw caution to the wind. Any attempt is a good attempt, or something along those lines. My only regret is that the colours I chose don't translate well into the sticker pack I wanted to make with these, but oh well. I've never complained about having to do more bird drawings, and I'm not about to start now. Colour and personal irritation aside, here's a little overview of those important shapes and how I used them before we jump into the stylized sketching of this adventure. The beak is unavoidable when playing around with a crow. You can really push it without risking very much. Worst case scenario, you end up with a raven rather than a crow, and that's hardly a loss. The only real risk is making it too small. The body is also a neat place to experiment with proportions, as our brains mainly focus on the head and shoulders in order to identify corvids, which gives us free range of the rest of their features. I would have liked to do some more explorations with style, but by the time I got to this point, it had been quite a while already, and I thought it was better to just wrap up the video rather than spend another week squeezing drawings into my free time. And that is that. I hope you enjoyed the video. As soon as exams are over, I'll hopefully have some time to work on some other animals and video ideas, so feel free to leave suggestions in the meantime. For now, thanks for sticking around until the end, and goodbye.